Round 9 in the A-League is here. It's the Newcastle Jets with the bye this week. We're back to Hindmarsh Stadium for Friday night football. Adelaide United coming off a very convincing performance against the Mariners, up against Sydney FC, who lost to Western United. This is going to be a very entertaining matchup. Jacob, how do you see it playing out?
Lots of goals. Because that's just what you're going to get with these two sides. Two sides that are scoring freely, that have conceded a lot. Obviously, Adelaide, two clean sheets in a row. They've looked very solid, but against Sydney, that's a big question to ask. And this is, I think, perhaps the biggest question of all the games that Adelaide have faced in terms of proving yourself. Okay, yes, a 4-0 win against the Mariners is nice, but they've not exactly been the Mariners of the last couple of seasons. This is a Sydney side that, okay, yes, they're not in great form either, but we know the threat that they pose and the danger that they have as a side. And I think there's going to be a massive test for Adelaide. But, at home at Hindmarsh, I tend to recall outside of the, 5-0 loss to Sydney last season, Adelaide have a very decent record against Sydney at Hindmarsh. So, it's a tough place for most teams to come and visit, but Sydney in particular. And with the way that Adelaide have been playing in the last couple of games, there's sort of this air of confidence around Adelaide, and in social media circles, everyone's talking about, look at all these people that were writing us off at the start of the season, and now here we are undefeated. And yes, let's laugh at that because it's been a fantastic start to the season, but yet to face real tough opposition and have kind of struggled against some teams they really should have beaten. Like Perth, like that first game against the Mariners. So, this is a huge test for the side against one of the teams that perhaps aren't playing as well as they should be with the side that they do have. So, obviously Sydney, it's a chance for them to bounce back and start to find some form again in the league. And for Adelaide, it's a chance to really legitimise their claim as a top 2, top 3 side in the league this season. I think if they can get the job done, then I'd be pretty confident in saying that there's a definite possibility at that point. But, it's about getting the job done. I think it's going to be tremendously entertaining. I think there's going to be a lot of goals. I do think Adelaide get the edge, just based on recent form. But, with the way that the two sides play, literally anything can happen. It just takes, one moment of madness, one fantastic goal from an attacking player who just picks something out of nothing, and it changes the game completely. But it's going to be very, very entertaining.
I think one of the interesting points out of this match is that Sydney FC have proven that their key weakness, Paletti, is getting done in transition. They commit a lot of numbers forward when they have the ball. And Adelaide United, on the contrary, have proved that they're a very good team in transition. So as much as Adelaide United are trying to prove that they're a good team and can take down the likes of Sydney, Sydney have to prove that they can't just be smacked on the counter every game, because teams know that's their weakness now. So if they want to go deep in this competition, they have to mitigate that somehow, whether it's, you're playing an extra couple of defenders in more conservative positions, or you're being extra more careful when you have the ball in kind of high, risk and turnover areas, one of the two. You got to do something, because this is continuously how they're getting beat now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also not tally ball. It's a very attacking style of football. It's constantly press. It's constantly, be on the attack. We sort of see it with Melbourne City on the women's side of things, and to a lesser extent the men, in recent years, where it's sort of like, we're going to dominate possession, we're going to be on the attack, but we're going to be defensively solid enough that you won't catch us out in the counter. And that's as you said, the one component that Sydney FC are missing at the moment. I don't think that they're going to find that here against Adelaide. I think they could very much tear them apart, sort of like MacArthur did, sort of like, how they have been torn apart all season, Sydney FC. I like Adelaide here at home to stay undefeated. Now, whether that's a draw or whether that's a win is anyone's guess. But I don't think Sydney leave with all 3 points.
Well, could we have your guess?
I said Adelaide to win or draw.
Yeah, but one or the other.
Go out on a limb, pick one.
Oh, no, I'm going to sit on the fence. It's going to end all square. It's going to be a draw.
Okay, a draw. Okay, nice. I don't mind that. Look, I see the arguments for both sides. I think it's an extremely hard one to predict. I'm going to tip Sydney FC to return to winning ways, just to provide a little bit of balance. They obviously have the quality there, so it's going to be an entertaining game nonetheless. Let's head over to Auckland Western United, and I'm going to get my prediction in straight away. I'm going to say Western United to take at least a point out of this game. Christian, we talked on the main pod. Auckland have a few injuries they have to worry about. They're just coming back off their first serious away day in Australia. Western United proved themselves, at least worthy of being in the conversation around pushing towards finals by the end of the year. I think Auckland are coming into this at a bad moment and Western are coming in at a really good moment. So 1 week after they dropped points for the first ever time against City, I'm tipping them to do it again against Western.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Auckland bounce back and get the 3 points here at home. Like I mentioned with West United, it depends on the opposition. And I just think Auckland at home, their defense is going to be very difficult for them to break down. They might get a few chances here and there, but like we've been saying, Western have been efficient so far this season, especially in that Sydney game. High pressing, progressing the ball in transition on the counter attack. They're going to have to do the same here against Auckland, but the difference is I just don't see this Auckland defence being opened up as much as Sydney. We know the Sky Blues, their defensive issues, as Paletti touched on. So I'd be hugely shocked if Auckland don't come away here with 3 points.
Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the head says Auckland and the heart kind of does as well. I mean, Western, very good performance against Sydney, but I think Sydney played it into their hands a little bit. And we mentioned this on a podcast where Western were able to set up in a way that really got their dynamic young attacking players involved, but also Ibusuki in those central areas where he's able to sort of flick the ball out wide and things like that, which he did quite well with Adelaide in the back end of last season. So I think that it's sort of that game played into their hands a little bit, whereas I'm not sure Auckland will be as happy to do that. They're going to look to be a lot more structured like we have seen from them this season. Obviously, it took a long time for them to even concede a goal this season. It's still only been the one game where they've actually conceded first. So it's a very, very difficult side to break down. I think, Christian, you touched on it perfectly there. So, yeah, I mean, it would be silly to suggest anything other than Auckland. But, I mean, Western, you're right, Lockie. They've got a solid squad that are finding their feet, finding some form, good, exciting young talent. I mean, getting a point is definitely a possibility, but I don't see Western winning it for sure. And to be honest, I think the most likely outcome is Auckland taking all 3 points.
Fair enough. All right, Paletti, if last week Glory Jets was the tank bowl, then what on earth are we calling Brisbane Roar against Perth Glory on a Saturday afternoon up at Suncorp Stadium with probably not too many people, literally the two bottom teams in the competition now? Do we give any... it sounds weird to say, right, because they're so close to each other in London, but, we're actually talking about this in the context of, is there any chance that Perth Glory can get something out of this game?
So I've got two names for it. I've got 2 tank, 2 bowl, or I've got tank bowl 2 electric boogaloo. Like, this is just... Like, I think, like I saw on social media, a few weeks ago, people were literally saying, like, this has the potential to be the worst game of the season. And I don't think these people are wrong. I think Perth Glory are an absolute shambles. Brisbane have looked better in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if that's been enough to get you back on the bandwagon, Lockie, with 2 points in 2 games for the Roar.
No, not after that second half on the weekend.
But it's not great. Like, I think Brisbane have enough there. They've shown it against Macarthur and they've shown it against the Wanderers that they have enough there that against a hapless Perth Glory side, surely Brisbane can get a win. However, Perth have to win at some point this season. They have to win a game. If the Wanderers
don't.
Yeah, I said that about the Wanderers women too, and they absolutely went ballistic on the weekend with the Sienna Silvestre show. Could we get the Adam Taggart show up in Brisbane? I think there's a distinct possibility we could. But for an actual prediction, Brisbane. I just to say all that, I still think Brisbane get their first win of the season.
Christian, surely Brisbane have to win this game, right? Again, the context is so wild. They haven't won yet I'm so certain about this.
I'm just laughing because in my head I'm thinking, okay, a scenario where Brisbane go 1-0 up and Zakovic just with the hamstring go
against the Glory.
If that was a low point last week, imagine that. But no, surely it does not get to that stage where they're hanging on for a 1-0 win. I think surely you've got to say it's going to be a rather convincing win at home. I don't think it'll be boring though. I do see goals on both ends. I do see Perth scoring as well. But yeah, if Brisbane don't win this game, then yeah, serious questions have to be asked of Zadkovic if they aren't already.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to the big Melbourne Derby, the marquee fixture, of course, on Saturday night. Melbourne victory against Melbourne City. I think, Jacob, this one is, getting set up really nicely because Melbourne City, we had some question marks over them. They haven't, completely removed them, but, a draw against Auckland to take the first points away from the Black Knights is a good way to say that you're somewhat serious in the league. Melbourne victory coming off the bye. We saw how City struggled off that same scenario against the Wanderers. Yeah. Massive game on Saturday night. You got to be up for it. Maybe they have the quickest start of the game, but Melbourne victory have proved their consistent quality of over the first 8 rounds of the season. How do you see this one playing out?
It's tough because it does feel like in recent seasons it doesn't matter what either side is doing in terms of their position on the table. At least in the couple of weeks in the run into the derby, things have sort of leveled out a little bit. And again, it seems to be the case here where City's sort of faltering at the start of the season, and Victory doing very, very well for themselves. But then, Victory off the bye, they haven't played. City are starting to find some form, almost sort of another level playing field. So, look, I'm going to go Victory because I think that they're the better side, and I think that the way that they play is probably better suited to this sort of a game, where it could be a little bit more cagey and they're going to be relying on those individual moments a little bit more. Whereas City, I think that what they've done really well recently is we mentioned Adelaide doing this on the podcast in terms of it's being a team effort. I think City have done that really well recently as well. And, yes, a lot of it has been down to someone like, Andreas Kuhn, who's been a fantastic player, but what he's done is get everybody involved, right? That's the key thing that he's done. So I think that with the midfield that Victory possessed, I think they'll be able to actually shut him down. And I think he could have quite a quiet game. And for that reason, it is probably going to play into Victory's hands. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter who Victory play in that double pivot. It's always extremely effective, and they just keep showing it week in, week out. Valadon, Teague, Fabian Monge when he comes in as well. They all do a really good job in there, winning the ball, controlling the space. They're good in transition, both in and out of possession. Like, it's a very solid midfield, and I think that's where City's going to struggle to win the battle, and I think that's what gives Victory the edge in this one.
Interesting. Christian, I think, Melbourne Victory, some of their players, some of their individuals, I'm thinking of the likes of Daniel Arzani, Zinedine Mishash, Nikos Virgos. Coincidentally, I didn't even plan that, but just some of the forward players, maybe a little bit streaky, and the kind of players that really could be adversely affected by coming off a week's break like this. Obviously, their back 7, if you want to call it. Jacob just talked about the base in midfield. Then you got your back 4 and Jack Duncan in goal have been very solid. So I don't see them conceding a lot of goals, but maybe, they struggle to go forward as well. We've seen, apart from the last 2 games of the derbies, before that, we saw a lot of low-scoring draws. I think, in fact, the 3 before that might have been like 0-0 or 1-0 or something. So I'm kind of predicting a low-scoring draw, either 0-0 or 1-0. How do you see it playing out?
Probably just give the edge slightly to Victory. I think the week off, it does maybe favour them slightly. You guys might disagree, but even City, coming away, getting that point against Auckland, that will surely give them confidence, right, heading into this derby. It's what they needed, right, despite being, seconds away from snatching those 3 points. I think also team selection will be pivotal for both these sides. I mean, from a City perspective, does Patrick Beach start again, or does Jamie Young come on, right?
Yeah.
Young hasn't started a game this season. I know he's got a lot of experience, obviously, but coming into such a big game like the Melbourne Derby, coming off no game time this season, that might be, a talking point heading into this derby if he does get the nod over Beach. What does Vidmar do there? And then obviously with Kisnorbo, who do you start on the flanks, right? Azani's been getting the nod the past couple of fixtures. He's been performing really well. Santos has played last game against Perth, so the rotations there a bit from Kisnorbo. It's just, obviously it depends on this week's training and what he sees from the players, because Kisnorbo said it. It's really from a week-to-week basis how he judges these selections, how he sees the players performing. Are they fit? How do they fit in to the structure depending on what's the opposition. So, yeah, massive game for both teams, obviously. Victory, we know Blue City are the park in that opening fixture this season, the Derby 3-0. Not expecting a similar result. I do tend to agree with you, Lockie. It will be a very close affair, but I'd say victory just by a goal.
All right, fascinating. Let's go to Sunday. Paletti, Western Sydney Wanderers against the Wellington Phoenix. What we've kind of come to learn over the last 12 months is the chaos team against the extremely stable opposition in the Phoenix. But 2 losses in a row now for Wellington. That hasn't really happened. Hasn't happened at all under Italiano, I believe. And then obviously you never quite know what you're going to get from the Wanderers as well.
Well, I think you know that you're going to get a low crowd. I think it's no. I think it's Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon. It's 5 p.m. That stadium is poorly designed in terms of where the fans have to sit. They'll be baking in the Sunday afternoon sun. I just like the Wanderers aren't playing good football. They barely drew 6.5. Like they barely drew what was it 6,600 and change on Saturday night for a prime time 7:35 fixture. Like that's probably the only guarantee you'll get out of this game. We're in but under Italiano, this is very uncharted territory for the Phoenix. They only lost 4 games all of last regular season. They've lost 3 so far this year. Now I will say, having a look at their fixtures, it hasn't been the easiest of goings for them. It was draw against Western United at home, then they had to travel to Perth. Then they had to come back and play at Derby. Then they had to travel to Gosford. Then international break, then come back to Sydney to play Unite round on neutral soil. Then come back to uh, then come back to New Zealand and play a Derby, and then play Macarthur. So they haven't had 2 home games in a row. They've been like I'm not going to argue semantics about staying in New Zealand, but they haven't had 2 home games in a row yet, and that's not going to continue here for quite some time. They just haven't had a chance to sort of settle in, get into a rhythm. It's been go here, go there, go everywhere. And that doesn't change this week. But you'd have to be a bold person to bet against Italiano losing 3 games in a row. And I'm not that bold. I think Wellington Phoenix turned things around. And this is where my prediction is going to come in for this week. So if we have a look at the table currently, it's Auckland 1, Adelaide 2, Victory 3, City 4, Macarthur 5, Wellington 6 on 10 points, and then it's Sydney, Western, Central Coast all on 9. I think that there will be no changes after this weekend to the teams that reside inside the top 6. That's my prediction.
Okay, sorry. No,
So
I'm not asking any questions.
They can change positions, but there will be no change to the teams that reside
There'll be no new
in the
teams
top 6.
in it.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. All right, no one else to crack into the top 6. Fair enough. Jacob, you want to take a stab at this one as well?
I'm actually going to give this one to the Wanderers, oddly enough. Don't know why. I just suddenly, I was like, I could see the Wanderers grabbing a 1-0 win here. And, it's sort of papering over the cracks of what's been their season so far.
Jacob's changed my prediction now.
It just seems like one of those ones they could just grab a result. It's not going to be reflective of their performance as a whole across the season, and Wellington will be kicking themselves thinking back to it. But it just feels like one of those games where that's the sort of thing that could happen. Alternatively, they go in eager to get a result against a weaker Wellington side than we've seen recently, and they make some silly mistakes and they get battered. So it feels like there's 2 really distinct sides to this game, and it's a tough one. But I think just for the hilarity of it, I'm going to give it as a win to the Wanderers.
Christian, did you have your prediction lined up? Yeah.
That game involves it, but it's for all 6 games, so I'm going to leave it till the end.
Okay, hold on to it. Well, then
yeah.
take us to our first taste this season of Macarthur Mondays, the Bulls up against the Central Coast Mariners.
Yeah, another sort of very tricky fixture to pick. I mean, I'll probably lean towards a Macarthur win at home. Again, Mariners just haven't been at all convincing for me to really trust them away from home to get a result here. I much rely on a Stoyovsky side, defensively well structured. I know they've had a couple of issues this season, but at home Monday night, I just expect them to to get it done, at least get a draw. So this is where my prediction is going to come in. So for all 6 games, all 6 home sides to avoid defeat. And the reason why I brought up the Wanderers Wellington was I was going to leave that game out, and Jacob, I can't bet against Jacob. He knows what he's talking about. He thinks Wanderers is going to win 1-0. I'm thinking,
I can't wait for that to be the one that doesn't give him the prediction now.
I was going to leave that out, but I thought, okay, Adelaide Sydney is probably the other one where you think Sydney are the favourites, but the others have a good chance being the home team. So I'm going to say all 6 just to elevate the bar.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Pletty.
Yep. Look, I think that the marquee fixture of the round is MacArthur versus the Mariners.
Absolutely
and I'll tell you
not.
why. It is the 2 words that you mentioned off the top there. MacArthur Mondays. It's an entertaining. It is an entertaining game. Like these games on Monday nights, I don't know what it is with Campbelltown and Monday nights, and I did write about this before for a previous publication that we were all a part of. It's entertaining to the max. The crowd's
Wasn't there a
usually
4-3
strong.
game last year?
Yeah, it was against Adelaide. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Crowd was a little bit lower on that occasion, but I think that was the first edition of MacArthur Mondays. But since it's been good crowds. This is the first taste we get of it this season, as you said, Lockie. And I think that this is going to be a great game. The Mariners usually bring great travelling support, and I think they're going to head back up to the Central Coast disappointed. It's going to be a MacArthur victory. They're going to make it 2 in a row. They're going to bring the momentum in from the Wellington Phoenix game, and they're going to solidify their place in the top 6 before Christmas.
Given that I don't think the Mariners scraped 5,000 into Gosford last Friday night, I think you're a little bit optimistic on the travelling support. But
I said they usually. I said usually bring good travelling support, didn't I?
But you were implying it was going to happen here as well. Don't try and weasel your way out of it. But no, I'm with you. Look, I think MacArthur are the clear favourites in this one as well. I'm giving them the win. But a very entertaining. We were talking about this before we started recording, but looking down that list of fixtures, some very enticing games, a lot of questions to be answered. So it's going to be a great week of A-League football.
I wasn't quite sure where to fit this one in because it wasn't really a discussion we had, which is why I think it might be a bit of a sleeper prediction. But relatively well disciplined the last couple of weeks in the A-League, which is quite odd. So I'm saying that there's going to be 2 red cards this week. I think they're going to make up for it. It could be like I said, the Wanderers could be really hot-headed and make a bunch of mistakes, and they're the ones who get the 2 red cards. Could be across these fixtures, but I'd like to see a little bit of chaos. It was too calm last week in terms of red cards. Obviously, lots of goals scored, but no red cards given out. So I think they're going to change that and go back to typical A-League, just a bunch of sending offs.
Yeah, definitely a lot of chaos potential this round as well. Let's round off the predictions with Will.
Alrighty, I'm going to go for a high-scoring affair, I believe, in the Adelaide and Sydney fixture to kick us off this round. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals. I'm going to take under 3.5 in the Auckland and Western United fixture. I reckon that'll be a low-scoring game. And I want victory to win the Melbourne Derby. So that is my prediction.
It's actually not bad.
That's a low bar, isn't it?
I was going to say I'm not.
You can't say it's a low bar for a 3-leg multi.
No, so 3 legs is okay, but I think
gimmies.
on the individual level, looking at them individually, you'd go that's a pretty assured. It's the difficulty of hitting all 3 that's the thing.
Yeah, the error is multiplied.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean, under 3.5 in Auckland Western's a gimme. So is over 3.5 in Adelaide Sydney. Victory to win the Derby, I think, is the hard.
How is that a gimme? And victory at Derby, we know Derby's anything can happen. Have you said your prediction, Lockie?
Yeah. I said Western to get at least a point out of the Auckland game.
Which is, you want to talk about low bars, you know.
You all said Auckland. Well,
no, I know, but it is just a draw. You just got to get a point. So.
Well, while we now roll into round 8 predictions to assign the votes, no one got anything spot on. So I already know we're going to be sitting here for half an hour discussing the intricacies. Paletti, would you like to make a case as to why you shouldn't be immediately ruled out for being the one person who is 100% wrong in their prediction?
Yeah, I think I can. I think that mine was closer to being right than either Will's or Christian's. that's my case. I think it was closer to being right when you break it down than what Will's or Christian's was. I think in most other weeks, the Wanderers would not have drawn a paltry crowd of 6,617.
Yeah, but we're talking about this week.
This week.
No, I understand that, but I think my prediction was pretty solid based on historic information.
So what you're saying is usually it would be a low bar and you still got it wrong.
No, no, because I originally wanted to go less. I originally wanted to go less than a 5,000 difference, and I said that would be a low bar. So I dropped
And that
the
was
bar.
still wrong too.
Yeah, I went a little bit bigger in terms of the gap. Look, I think it's more right than what either Will or Christian got. That's my case, and if you want to all rule me out, then that is fine. But that's the argument I can make is that
Jacob, what I'm hearing is that it's Will and Christian fighting for the 1 vote, and then it's you and me fighting for the 3.
But I will say one thing that does help Paletti out is perhaps Christian inadvertently. But before we started recording, Christian himself said, "Oh, Paletti was bloody close this week." So, I'm not sure that helps your argument much, Christian.
Did you have to mention that?
But
That's off the record.
It was off the record. It's inadmissible evidence. But,
okay, Mr. Lawyer.
But no, I mean, I'm with you, Lockie. That I think it's between us two for the 3 for sure. Because I mean, we got at least half of ours right. The others, Will and Christian was a third, and Paletti was not right but close. So I think we're in for the 3 at least. I'm happy to agree on that.
Christian, I guess. Do you have a pitch for your 1? Who would you give the 1 vote to? Let me ask you that.
Me. I
What,
agree
you don't want 2?
Yeah.
No, I agree that I'm not in the I'm not in the discussion. I'll lay my hands down and say you guys can dispute that. I can't really argue there, but I think I do deserve 1 vote compared to Will. So originally Will had goal scorers, right? He had Taggart, Barbarousis, and who was the other one?
Qual.
And Qual. So had he stuck to that prediction, that would have been a much higher bar. And then he changed it to a goal or an assist.
Mm-hmm.
And Barbarousis
He amended before the deadline, though.
He did,
but he still changed.
He still lowered it.
That was, and he still lowered it. And so Barbarousis scored, Qual did nothing, and Taggart did nothing. So for me, I've gotten obviously 1 out of 3 correct. All 3 of my away sides scored. So that tightens the bar, I think, a bit more. I reckon 4 out of the 6 teams scored. It's just the way you say it. Right? I mean, Jacob,
again, I was saying this before the recording, but your prediction wasn't for these 6 teams to score. It was for both teams to score.
Okay,
in
I'll
each
put
of these
the
3
question
games.
to you then. In terms of a higher bar and who's got a more correct, who would you give it to? Would you give it 1 vote to me or Will?
That's the exact question, right? We now have to decide. Both of you got 1 out of 3. So what is the tougher prediction? For specific players to either score or assist, or for both teams in a game to score? What's tougher? And I think, Paletti, it's picking out a specific goal contribution.
I don't think you're wrong, but I also think the dropping of the bar hurts. We've established this. We have established already this season.
It's cowardice. It's a sign of weakness.
We have established this season the precedence of low bars and that hurting your prediction. That being said, Christian, mate, Perth to score. What were you thinking?
But also, like,
that hardens the bar. That's to my point.
It does.
But also, like, okay, we need to stop arguing that being further away from correct is like impressive in some way.
You started that.
I'm
Yes,
saying,
you did. Roll the tape.
I'm saying picking a single goal or assist is more unlikely than both teams to score. That's what I'm saying.
But okay, Will's gone for 3 strikers though. It's not like he's got put in a midfielder or he's plugged in a defender, right? You expect a goal and assist from those 3, at least 1. You expect that, right? I mean, if you're talking about heightening the bar.
I've got a suggestion, Christian. Let's go to Bet365 or a bleeped out sponsor-free advertising platform, and we'll pick a random game from this round, and we'll have a look at what the odds are for both teams to score and for a striker for an anytime goal or assist. And then whatever the odds are, whatever the higher bar is, that person will get the vote. Premier League, Bournemouth versus West Ham this weekend, right? Danny Ings is actually, and Jared Bowen. Oh, sorry, no. Yeah, Jared Bowen here is $2.60 for any time score or assist. And then for both teams to score is $1.50. So both teams to score is the more likely option, which means Will gets the 1 vote.
Yeah.
Christian?
I mean,
Are we not buying my argument at all?
I do dislike rewarding Will for lowering the bar after making the prediction. Yes, he did it by the deadline, but I think,
Jacob,
like I said, it's a sign of cowardice. It's a sign of cowardice and weakness.
Have the point then.
Well, I kind of did with Christian's argument that you were very close. But, I mean, if we're going to go off of those odds, you do have to give that to Will, at least, over Christian.
All right. Congratulations. 1 vote to Will. It's down to myself and Jacob for the 3 votes. How do we want to play this, Jacob? You got one part of yours correct, which so did I. So you said Adelaide would remain undefeated. They did. I said there would be at least 14 goals. There was. And then I also said there would be less than 3 in the Wellington MacArthur games turnout. There was exactly 3. And you also had 2 games to have 4 or more goals, and there were 5 games to have 4 or more goals.
Yeah.
I think we're extremely level. So I guess it's down to Christian and Paletti. Do you want to say anything before?
I'll say a couple of things. Firstly, is that this idea of we both got one thing right, but then the one thing that you did get right, you actually got right plus, and you built that leeway into it.
Yep.
Which then I kind of then punished me because I said 2 games with 4+ goals and there were 5, and I didn't account for that leeway. Had I have said 2+ games with 4+ goals, I'd have got it.
You'd have it hands down if you had 2+.
So I think I actually have the higher bar there in that regard,
which made it incorrect. Yeah, well done.
Which made it, it made it as incorrect as yours was, though. That's the thing, right?
No,
so
agree.
it's a higher bar, and also I kind of jokingly said, I mean, I got it correct, and then I also got it too correct to the point where it was more than the 2 games, whereas you didn't actually get that second part of yours correct. You said less than 3, and it was exactly 3.
No, you can't say that your second part is correct there.
No, okay. Historically, the highest goal scoring weekend in A-League football.
Yeah, but we're talking about round 8, though.
But
look, here's my argument, right, Christian and Paletti. I am literally 1 goal away in the Wellington and MacArthur game from getting mine 100% correct. But Jacob is 3 games away.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts,
no, hold on. Just stop with that argument, because neither of us are correct, so that doesn't work, right? We both know we're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm only 1 goal away from being correct, where Jacob is 3 games away from being correct.
This is true.
No, I was correct, and then I went over.
No, you said
I was correct
2
and went
exactly.
over. I was correct and went over. You were correct and went
wrong.
over with 14+ goals.
Yeah,
Yes, I said 14 or more. You said 2 games exactly.
So again, do we want to reward lowering the bar or sticking with a higher
correct, bar? Lowering the bar.
You weren't correct though, because you said 3 and you said less than 3 and you got 3.
I'm going to give the 3 points to Jacob because I think the hardest part of the entire weekend was him predicting that Adelaide would remain undefeated. I really do.
Are you kidding?
I think that was the hardest part of the entire weekend.
Against the Mariners.
I think that was the hardest part of the entire
We suck
weekend.
against the Mariners
Adelaide
recently.
are not good.
Wow.
They're
Okay. No. Actually,
undefeated, but they're not good.
this might hurt my standing here, but I'm sorry. But after
Adelaide,
that one, even I'm starting to say Adelaide are pretty
Adelaide
good this
absolutely.
season.
Hold on. Can I ask a question, Pletty? How many minutes of men's football did you watch this week?
I watched the mini match for every single game.
Oh, okay.
Can I be honest here? How is this an argument? Jacob, 3 votes, hands down. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're both
sorry.
in agreement. It's
He's
Jacob
gone.
3,
No,
Lucky 2.
He's gone for Adelaide remain undefeated, right? He's gone for 2. What you said exactly 2 games, 4+ goals. But
Well, I didn't ever say exactly, but I didn't
well,
say.
that's what I
at
thought.
least,
I thought he just meant at least.
So
So,
I just-
Well,
So I
you
just
said
said
at least, though.
but did he say exactly?
No, but that's assumed.
When you assume...
If you say-
But for
if I say-
okay,
if I
and
say
if you-
two
No,
games
I
this
am with you.
weekend-
I'm with you on
Okay.
that though, Lockie, because we
Okay,
did
thank
make
you.
that. We did make that clear at the start of the
Okay.
season. We said you've got to be as clear as you can
That is
be.
the default. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lockie, I'm looking at yours. 14 plus goals for a Saturday for 4 games, but you've tied it in with Wellington MacArthur under 3 goals, and that doesn't hit. So that was basically you had to get that. Otherwise, regardless of we hit 18 goals for the round. Surely Jacob gets the 3 votes. I don't see how he does
18
it.
goals for the Saturday. That will
Saturday.
Yeah, for the Saturday. That's what I mean. Yeah.
No, okay. I'm
I
seeing
just
the writing on the
don't- I
wall.
don't
I'm
see-
happy to concede, Jacob. Congratulations. You can have
Thank
your
you very
3
much.
Not
votes.
that I didn't want to because
Well
Jacob's
fought.
ahead. He's already first. So it pains me to say it, but he deserved the 3 votes.
All right. Well, then that shakes up the table a little bit as well. Paletti, you are now outright last place. Will has broken away. Paletti on 7, Will on 8, Christian on 9, holding on to the bronze medal position without a vote this week. And then Jacob and myself breaking ahead a little bit. Jacob got a 2-vote lead on 13, and I'm on 11 as well. So
tell you what, it's tight.
it is tight.
It's good this year.
Will
Well,
is
I
on a
think-
streak of 4 rounds in a row, polling votes. Very impressive. He's come back from the dead.
It's the fact that we only have 5 and we're like 3 of us get a vote each week that it's artificially kept tight. It's almost like the loser point in the NHL. It just artificially keeps the race
Yeah.
tight. But look, all it takes is a couple of 3-pointers, and I'm right back in the hunt for the top
Yep.
spot. So I think I've got a very good chance this week of chasing down some ground. I'm looking forward to it.
Paletti, save it, Paletti. Your season's over. Forget it.
Christian
What
on
am
his
I?
high horse.
What am I? Perth Glory man?
Yeah, close to it.
Wow.
that was you. That was you
Okay.
last season,
That's,
Christian.
That's
I'm sorry.
low. That's lower than the bar for half of my predictions, Christian.
I want to say as well, Jacob, 50% of the rounds you've got the 3 votes. So
It was like that last year, but what killed me was not getting 1-pointers when I was wrong.
yeah, whereas I've got
so-
1 3 vote, but then lots of 2s.
Yeah.
So
So-
the consistent angle.
Oh,
All right,
here-
fascinating.
Here's the question is, and this is for future weeks, does Jacob just start to build up so much of a lead that he goes so conservative in trying to hit the 1 points that
No.
he just completely misses?
It's
And
like
just
Zadkovic
falls back down?
pointing at his hamstring. I'm not gonna play those.
Yeah,
those
you would
tactics.
not get.
I'm not gonna
We
play
would
it
just not
safe.
give you votes for that.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. I know that. I'd still have to keep a high bar because otherwise you guys would just go nah.
You don't just have to make good predictions. You have to play the social game as well in this competition. It's a fine line. All right, that'll do for today. We'll see you back for round 10 next week.